Let's talk to God. One more thing, like, subscribe, and share. Come on, let's talk to God. Woo!
Hey, good evening, everybody. It's Cutler here in the Let's Talk to Cutler vlog, the Let's Talk to Cutler broadcast. It's Tuesday, the 16th of August, and I am glad to be here. I hope you all are glad to be here too. Make sure when you join, when you come on in today, you shout out and let me know. Please let me know where you're joining from. I'm just curious to just take another roll call and see where you guys are joining me from, especially if I haven't seen you here in the chat lately. But this channel is about inspiration. It's about motivation. It's about challenging ourselves to show up a little bit better tomorrow than we did today. And again, I often say it doesn't mean that today was a failure or a flop. It means that we're just taking the time to see, how can I improve? What can I do better tomorrow than I did today? What are some nuggets that I can glean from the day that will push me into a better space tomorrow? And I often say that better doesn't have to be 5 years down the road. Better doesn't have to be 10 years down the road, but better can be the next moment, because we are better when we intend to become better. We are better when we purpose and we resolve within ourselves, I'm going to be better. I can be better than this. Things can change. I'm not always going to be this way. It's not always going to be like this. So I'm excited about this space, this eternal space that is called better. With each day, we become better. We become wiser. We become stronger. We become a little more resolute in our convictions, things that really matter, things that we really believe in. So do me a favor, if this is your first time, go ahead and subscribe to my channel again, because this is about inspiration, it's about motivation, and it is about making sure that we leave this moment more empowered than we did when we came into this moment. We have enough bad information on so many outlets and so many channels and so many places and so many stations, until I just want to make sure that I always commit this channel to positivity and to growth and to working to better us, to make sure that somehow we step out of this space a little bit better. All right. So again, if you haven't done so, please make sure that you do a thumbs up on the conversation. Come on and join me in the chat. Let me know. But type something in the chat so I can at least see you and know that you're with me today. All right. Again, I want to shout out the LTTC VIPs in just a moment. But the conversation today is sort of well, let me tell you what it stems from. It stems from me catching up on my emails, because I have so many emails. And as most of you know, at least those of you who have been with me for the past 3 or 4 weeks, you know that I've been traveling. So I haven't had a chance to look at all of my emails, and I've been reading the emails, and there seems to have been this common theme where some people wanted to know, well, Cutler, do you ever, fill in the blank? Do you ever fill in the blank? So I wanted to have this candid conversation, something that I call a moment of candor. It's really probably more like those do you ever kind of conversations. So I want to ask you all to just join in the conversation, because I'll put some things out there and ask you all, and you can help me, because I'll don't worry, I'll list those do you evers, and you all can just join right along with me. But out of these do you evers and this candid conversation of this moment of candor, you all know I'm going to try to pull out some lessons. I'm going to try to pull out some nuggets. I'm going to try to pull out some moments of inspiration. I'm going to try to pull out some moments of motivation. I'm going to try to pull out some moments to make sure that we walk away with something. It is always my goal, my hope, and my prayer that we walk away from this conversation with something. All right, that is always my goal. Let me shout out the LTTC VIPs for just a moment, and then we'll just jump right into the conversation, because I only have 1,800 seconds, right? Only 1,800 seconds. I want to shout out the LTTC VIPs. They're the people who just jump in the chat first. Sometimes they beat me into the chat room. So do me a favor, do a thumbs up on the conversation. If you haven't done so, do a thumbs up on the conversation and come on in the chat. Say something so that I can see you and know that you're here. And let me shout out the VIPs. Annie Cutler, good evening to you. Annie says, let's ride. Paula D says, hello, everyone. Linda Martin says, good evening. Welcome all. Get aboard. Listen, especially you want to get aboard on this conversation, because this is going to be, like I said, just a moment of candor where I'm responding to emails where people have said, Cutler, do you ever? So I want to so I don't know if I'm taking a risk or not, but I'm going to do my best at responding to those questions that said, Cutler, do you ever? So let me just see if I can pull up some of those questions so I can just remind myself of them. And you all, I'm curious. I want to hear your responses. So I have one question that says, Cutler, do you ever have bad days? I thought about the question. And I initially was going to say yes, but you all know I'm really into the power of perspective as well. So for me, days are like meals. My days, I look at my days like I do a meal. And just because the appetizer doesn't taste good, that doesn't mean that the whole meal is going to be bad. The appetizer may not be good, but that does not mean that the entree is ruined. And there may be a portion of the entree that I don't like, but that doesn't mean the entire entree is to be thrown out. The salad may not be so good, but that doesn't mean dessert is not going to be good. I've heard people say things like, oh, that just ruined my entire dinner. That ruined the whole dinner. Well, consider that the dinner is not your only meal. So for me, I look at the day as a meal. And just because one portion of my meal was bad, that doesn't mean the whole meal was bad. And then if I look at it as saying breakfast wasn't good, I still got lunch, dinner, and snacks left. It's all about how you look at the situation. And I don't know about you all, but for me, in recent years, I've never looked at myself as having a completely bad day. Why would I say that? Again, you all know this channel is about inspiration. It is about motivation. So I want you all to not necessarily adopt my way of seeing things, but I want you to be empowered by the perspective that you take on things. In recent years, I never look at myself as having a completely bad day. I know sometimes people come home at the end of the day, after school, after work, and they say, oh, I just had the most horrible day. But one of the things that I've learned in my recent years is the power of perspective. I've never looked at myself as having a completely bad day recently. Why would I say that? Because I can attest to the fact that something good happens to me every single day. Something good happens to me every single day. How many of you can attest to that? That your complete day is rarely ruined. Because somewhere in the day, somewhere along that 24-hour span, something good happens to you. Maybe I'm the only one who sees it like that, and I know I'm not. I see God's hand in my life every day. I see goodness in my life every day. I see blessings, whether great or small, every single day. So to the answer, Cutler, do you ever have a bad day? I have bad moments in a day. I may have a bad meal or a bad part of the meal, but thank you, T. Cutler, I look for goodness in every part of my day. I search for positivity in every part of my day. I look to see God's hand in every part of my day. I look for the blessings in my day. And one of the best things that happens to me every day is that my eyes open. So for me, it is about perspective. So to the person who says, Cutler, do you ever have a bad day? I can't in all good consciousness, say that I have completely bad days. I just don't have complete bad days. I hope you all can see that. And that's just not me being so philosophical. That's just me being honest. That's just me being candid with about the perspective that I have on life. I've got those pockets that kind of rub me the wrong way and things that are not always as I want them to be. But do I have a completely bad day? Absolutely not. Absolutely not. I'm enjoying life. I'm enjoying the ride. And in recent years, I've discovered how to take the perspective whereby I see something good in every day. I find something good. I look for something good. All right. So tell me what you all think. If someone were to ask you that question, do you ever have a bad day? How would you have answered that question? Would you say that you have a bad day or that you ever have bad days? And even if you do, even if you would say that, understand now the power of positivity. It's all in how you see it. All right. I just wanted to share that one with you because I got that in an email. So apparently there, I wonder if I just show up here and it seems like I'm always bubbly and I'm always doing great and I'm always on top of the world. There are days when I feel like the world is on top of me. But one of the things that I know is this. When I feel broken, when I feel saddened, when I feel dismayed, when I feel torn, when I feel interrupted, when I feel burdened, at least I'm still feeling. And so I know that I'm alive. And because I'm alive, I know I have another opportunity. And for those moments, I'm thankful. Just my perspective. Yvonne, I'm with you. Every morning when I open my eyes, I say thank you. Absolutely. So if you wanted to see how I answer that question, that's how I answer it. And then someone else asked me the question, let's see, do you do you ever say I'm fine when you're not? Do you ever say I'm fine when you're not? You all tell me, do you ever say that? Do you ever say I'm fine when you're not? I almost want to wait to see what you're going to put in the chat, but I have to keep going because you all know I only have 1,800 seconds and I don't want to waste your time. How would I respond to that question? Well, to me, fine does not, and this is just me, to me, fine does not mean that I'm functioning at 100%. Oh, Paula D, rub it in. You all, she's rubbing it in. Paula D, Paula D says, I used to have bad days when I was working, but now since I've retired, every day is Saturday. Oh, Paula, just rub that in our faces. Why don't you? I don't blame you, my friend. Enjoy all of your Saturdays. All right. Let's see. In terms of the question, do you ever say I'm fine when you're not? T Cutler says, I do it all the time. You all tell me, do you ever say I'm fine when MV says I do say I'm fine? All right, all right, all right. Anybody else? Do you ever say I'm fine when you're not? I'll go on, but please let me see your responses to that question. To me, again, I was saying that fine does not mean that I'm functioning at 100%. It doesn't. It means that I can function. And Paula D says, yes, I said. But for me, it means that I can function and I can accomplish what I've set out to do. Because, like anybody else, I have days when I'm not functioning at 100%. But again, that doesn't mean that I have a bad day. But do I say I'm fine when I'm not? I'm functioning. K Sharp, I'm with you. It depends on whom I'm talking to. I'm with you there. Yvonne says, yes, I'm okay. Okay. But when I say I'm fine, for me, that means that I can function. It means that I can accomplish what I've set out to do. And again, like everybody else, I have days when I'm not at that 100% level, but I don't always disclose that I'm not at that 100% level. But for me, that doesn't mean that I'm not fine. And why would I not necessarily disclose that I'm not at 100% level? Well, one, because I believe in the power of manifestation. I really do. I believe that my words have power. I believe that my words open the door. I believe that my words will create a door where I can walk through. So if I say that I'm well, then well comes my way. That's how I look at it. So when I say yes, I'm fine, it doesn't mean that I'm 100%. It means that I'm functioning. It means that I can reach my goals that day. It means that I can navigate. I can go on throughout the day. Because I want to be so careful. I want to be careful not to say to some people, "Oh, I'm not well." Because if I say I'm not well to some people, it might burden you down, and I don't want to do that. I don't ever want my I'm not well to burden somebody else down. Because then I've walked into the possibility of burdening you down. And I've given you the notion that I can't walk in my own strength for the day. Words have power. So I'm very careful when people say, "How are you doing? Are you okay?" I can say, "Yeah, I'm okay." Doesn't mean I'm 100%, but I'm okay. I'm good enough to navigate. I'm good enough to get through. And I have to confess that I'm not so superhuman to the point where I don't sometimes confess that things are not going well. I do sometimes confess that things are not going well. But can I tell you what I've learned over the years, you all? What I've discovered in recent years. There are some times when I will confess that things are not well. But I hope this helps somebody this evening because I have discovered that I can be fine even when things are not well. Yes, my brother, yes, my sister, yes, my friends, yes, my family. I can be fine even when things are not well. That's what hope is all about. I have hope when things are not well. I'm doing fine even though things may not be well. So I wanted to share that one with you because someone wanted to know, do you do you do you ever say that you're fine when you're really not? And again, fine does not mean that you're functioning at 100%. Fine means I know that I'll make it through it. Fine means I know that I can function. Fine means that I'm operational. Fine means I like that, Linda. I confess I have a habit of saying I'm hanging in there. Fine means I got enough strength to make it through. Now I may barely, thank you, Linda, I might barely make it through, but at least I recognize my own strength. I've lived long enough to know that I can make it through this. It doesn't mean that everything is well. It doesn't mean that I'm having the best day or the best moments of the day. But I have discovered I can be fine even when things are not well. And we've got to learn to see that. We've got to learn to not only see it, but say it. Things are not well, but I'm fine. And then of course we have to be honest enough to say, when we're not fine, we know what fine is. And so I'm offering us the opportunity to subjectively define that word for us. Fine for me may not necessarily be fine for you. So fine is, are you functioning? Are you okay? Can you function? And when you can't, be okay with saying, no, I'm not fine. But for the most part, when I say I'm fine, I mean it. I mean that I can make it through. I mean that I can function. I mean that I can find the strength to navigate this. And those who know me will know that I will say when I'm not, I'll say, nope, absolutely not. All right. But for the most part, and this is just me, if you just say, well, Color, this is not very inspirational, this is not motivational. I just wanted to be having a moment of candor where I'm responding to the questions that people ask me in the emails because I didn't get a chance to respond to all the emails. So I figured I'd take the moment to share with you all and respond to the emails. Then I got another question that says, do you ever feel less than? And I have to say, I was baffled by that one. I wasn't exactly sure of what that question meant. But if the question is, do you ever feel less than perfect? The answer is always. I always feel less than perfect. Why would I say that? Because I have not reached the height of where destiny calls. I haven't. I'm still alive. I'm still living. I'm still climbing that mountain that's called destiny. I'm still discovering purpose as I walk to the top of the mountain. As I walk to the end of the line, the end of the road, I'm still discovering purpose every single day. I'm on my way to destiny. So, do I ever feel less than perfect? Absolutely. I always feel less than perfect. That's what keeps me living. That's what keeps me going. That's what keeps me striving. That's what keeps me thriving. Because I have not reached the pinnacle of where destiny calls me. But can I tell you something? And again, this is about perspective. On the other hand, I believe that there are some situations where God has perfectly matched and perfectly prepared me for that experience. There are some opportunities, there are some times where I feel perfectly prepared for what I'm going through. But do I feel less than perfect in my entirety? Yes, absolutely. Yes. Now, if the question is, because the question was a blank question or an open-ended question that says, do you ever feel less than? So if the question is, do I ever feel less than perfect? Then that answer is always. If the question is, do I ever feel less than others? That answer is not anymore. You all know I have to be honest. And I can't say this is a moment of candor if I'm going to get up here and lie. But do I ever feel less than others? The answer is not anymore. The answer is really now never. Because when I die, here we go, you all, because I only have 1,800 seconds and I'm going to try to stick to it. But when I really digested the fact that we all got here the same way, and that whoever created him created me, whoever created her created me, I stopped feeling less than. I might not have as many things or as many opportunities or as much money, or I may not have those things, but I will never feel less than anybody else for as long as I live. Never. Because I was created in the same image and the same likeness as everybody else. So do I ever feel less than people or less than somebody else? Absolutely not. Never. And I want to empower you all to feel the same way. You're not less than anybody else. People may have more things and more stuff, but they don't have more humanity than you. They share the same oxygen that you breathe. Blood runs through their veins the same way it runs through yours. Don't ever feel less than anybody. I hope we can get our young people, our children, to adopt that and really feel it. Because as a child, I have to confess, I have to admit, there were times when I felt less than so many people. And let's remind our young people, let's remind the people in our lives that you are no less than anybody, and nobody is better than you. All right? So if the question is, do I feel less than perfect? Answer is always. Do I feel less than other people? The answer now is never, not anymore. If the question is, do I feel less than my circumstances? Well, Sometimes I feel like my circumstances might get the better of me. But may I offer you the power of knowing how to shift? That is my offering tonight. Sometimes I feel like my situations are going to get the better of me or get the best of me, but learn how to shift. I told you all it's about perspectives. I shift emotionally and mentally and spiritually to a place that reminds me that all things work together for my good. When I feel like life is happening, when I feel like situations and circumstances are about to overwhelm me and overtake me, I have to shift mentally, I have to shift emotionally, I have to shift spiritually to a place where I'm reminded that all things work together for my good. I have to shift to a place where I'm reminded that my footsteps are ordered. I have to shift to a place where I believe that I am just as valued in humanity as anybody else. I have to shift to that place to know that my circumstances are not greater than I am. My situation is not greater than I am. And there is no situation, there is no circumstance that will ever befall me. Never. That catches God by surprise. That's just what works for me, because this is just a moment of me being candid, me responding to these Cutler "do you ever" kind of questions. Uh, yes, I feel sometimes like life is gonna just drown me and take me under. But I'm telling you, learn how to shift emotionally, learn how to shift spiritually, learn how to shift mentally to a place. And even if we don't necessarily share the same faith, learn how to shift to a place where you see and you find that your steps are ordered, where you see and you find that the Creator desires that you prosper and be in good health, where you see and you find that, yes, all things have got to work together for you good. That's just me. That's what works for me. All right. And then let's see. Oh, this question, do you do you ever make mistakes? Absolutely. Absolutely, you all. Of course, like, again, I'm here this evening just sharing a moment of candor, responding to these emails. But for the question says, do you ever make mistakes? Absolutely. Absolutely. And I'm not going to try to throw us all under the bus, but can I tell you this? We all make mistakes. Because what are they? Mistakes are actions. Mistakes are judgment calls that are just misguided and wrong. And guess what, you all? Some mistakes are very costly. Some mistakes, they end up working to our advantage. I knew that I would chit chat about this and talk about mistakes, and I did a little research today, and I was looking at the mistakes I was looking at the mistakes. By the way, can you all say happy birthday to Audrey Dixon? She's in the chat. She's one of the LTCC family members. Can you all make sure that you say happy birthday to Audrey Dixon? But I wanted to just respond to the question: Cutler? Do you ever make mistakes? And the answer is absolutely. We all make mistakes. We all make mistakes, and some of them are very costly, but some of them are fortuitous. You all. So I took a look at some of the mistakes. Can you all believe this? I want to make sure. Yeah, please don't forget. Say while she's here, make sure that you say happy birthday to Audrey Dixon. Audrey, you see they're saying happy birthday to you. Let me talk about these mistakes, because would you believe that chocolate chip cookies were discovered by mistake? Chocolate chip cookies. The lady was baking. She wanted to make chocolate cookies. She just didn't happen to have any more baker's chocolate. So she grabbed some hunks of chocolate thinking that they would melt in the cookies. So she would just have a flat out chocolate cookie. She ended up, and the chips stayed solid in the cookie. So she ended up discovering chocolate chip cookies. How about that? T. Cutler says, thank God for that mistake. The toy, the Slinky, made by a mistake. There was an engineer, he was working on some naval battleships, and he was trying to create this thing where he was going to measure something that was going on with some of the meters. And so he ended up with this spiraling wire. He dropped it, and it kept on going and going and going and going. And he discovered the Slinky by mistake. By mistake. Potato chips. Who knew? Discovered by mistake. A man in a restaurant wanted some fried potatoes, and he kept complaining about the potatoes, and he said, can you just get them a little thinner and just fry them a little harder? Until the cook decided that he was annoyed with this man, and he sliced the potatoes as thin as he could get them, made a batch of them, and sent them back out. The man enjoyed them. That's how potato chips were discovered. Silly putty. This is the stuff that was discovered by mistake during World War II. They had to make rubber boots and rubber tires, and they ended up putting too much silicone or something in there, so they ended up with silly putty. Things were discovered by mistake. So what am I saying? Learn from your mistakes. Look at the net results. Look at the results of your mistake, and see if you can turn, and children say this, but it really, really is true. See if you can somehow turn that frown upside down into a smile. Look at these things that happen by mistake. So let's learn. Let's try to learn from our mistakes. The microwave oven, stumbled upon by mistake. Pacemaker, stumbled upon by mistake. The pacemaker was not intended to be a pacemaker. It was, if I recall reading correctly, it was designed to gauge temperature. That was a pacemaker. And some mistakes are costly. Now, we're not going to have as costly of mistakes like we did with the Titanic, because with the Titanic, you had a second officer. Did you all know this? Make sure you go and read this. With the Titanic, there was a second officer who got off the ship. And when he got off the ship, he forgot to give his binoculars to his replacement. You all double check. I think this is what I read. He forgot to give his binoculars to his replacement. And who knows, I'm just saying who knows, because this history doesn't write this out, but who knows, perhaps if the second officer, or the person who replaced the second officer, would have had those binoculars, they could have looked and seen the iceberg. By the time they spotted, of course, it was too late. So that was a major fatality in the history of sea life. All right. Why am I talking about all this? Why am I sharing all this? Again, because I wanted to respond to the questions where people ask me, Cutler, do you ever? And I thought one of the things that we could get from this moment, because the time has already flown by, one of the things that I thought we could get from this moment is learn how to be honest with who you are. Learn how to be honest with what your experiences are. So learn to be honest with who you are. Learn to be honest with what your experiences are. But here is a nugget that I want us to take. Also learn how to master what I call the power of perspective. In all of these questions, do I ever have a bad day? Do I tell people that I'm feeling fine when I'm not? Do I feel less than? In all of these things, be honest with who you are and what your experiences are. But also somehow learn to master the power of perspective, because when you learn how to master the power of perspective, that is when you learn how to shift your day. You learn how to do a mental shift. You learn how to do an emotional shift. You learn how to do a spiritual shift. And you will learn the truth of the phrase and the clause that I sometimes share that said, nobody can ruin your day except for the one who runs your day. And other than you and God, nobody runs your day. So I want to end on that note. Know that you have the power to shift the outcome of your day. Take that for what it's worth. All right. Thank you all so much for joining me. Thank you. I hope that you all are having a great evening. I am. And it's always so good. It's so empowering to see you all. Do me a favor. Keep building community. Keep maintaining connectivity. Stay safe. Stay sane. Keep your heads up. Keep your hopes up. Audrey Dixon, happy birthday to you. Everybody, it's good to see you all. Tell people, come on. Let's talk to Cutler. All right. And it looks like to me, I'm going to have to work on this light. I'm going to have to work on this lighting next go round, because I'm not sure. It looks like the lighting keeps now. It's definitely fading. It looks like the lighting keeps fading, you all. But I got to do something about it. Next time, I'll make sure it's kind of consistent and it's stable. But until the next time, please know this: from my heart to yours, there is and always will be so much love. Good night, everybody. Until the next time.